On today's episode of The Deep Life, we welcome Dorothee Baumfalk. And I hope that I pronounced it just a little bit correct. My German's not great, but Dorothee, welcome to the Deep Life podcast.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Dorothee, you are a yoga teacher, Ayurvedic counselor, and journal therapist. And your goal is to offer yoga classes that go beyond the asanas, making your students feel their best both physically and mentally, which is why you add Ayurvedic components and journaling to your teachings. So we're very excited to dive deep into this, but let's lay some foundational groundwork just so that the listeners are perhaps more familiar than they may be about Ayurveda. Can you tell us what exactly that is?
Yes, of course. Ayurveda means, like the word as such, means the science of life. And it's pretty much the oldest medical system that we have. So every other medical system that we have today is kind of just, it came after Ayurveda. It's pretty much the oldest medical system that we know. And it was founded, if you can say that, in India. It developed in India. And it's kind of the sister science of yoga. And while yoga is more about the mind and finding enlightenment and everything, Ayurveda is more about the body and feeling your best and knowing exactly who you are. And the basis of this concept are the three doshas, which are the bioenergies, if you will. So there are three of them, Vata, Pitta, and Kapha, and they're all composed of the Ayurvedic elements, which are ether, air, fire, water, and earth. And they're pretty much everywhere. They're not just in us and in our bodies, but also all around us in nature. And they each have their very special qualities that define our body type, our personality, the way we think, the way we act, if we have like really awesome thick hair or like the flimsy stuff like I do, and if your nails break easily. So they're really everywhere.
Oh, fabulous. That's such a beautiful introduction. Now I have a question. Did you begin studying your yoga and becoming like a teacher of that first before the Ayurveda, or was it hand in hand?
I became a yoga teacher first, and I came into contact with Ayurveda during my teacher training, and I was very interested in learning more about it. And when I finished my teacher training, COVID hit, and I suddenly had a lot of time on my hands. So I dove deeper into Ayurveda and studied it for a year and became an Ayurvedic counselor because I was so fascinated with it. And I thought, if I really want to understand yoga, I need to dive deeper into Ayurveda as well because they're so connected and intertwined.
Can we talk about sort of that interconnection and the the interconnection between Ayurveda and yoga and how they kind of work together?
Yes. So as I just said, Ayurveda is about keeping the body healthy, and Ayurveda is about a healthy mind. And in order to get that healthy mind, meditation is of utmost importance. So basically, the asanas are just the instruments to really be able to sit in meditation for a really long time. And in order to have that healthy body to perform the asanas, Ayurveda is very essential. And also the philosophy, and it both developed in India. So it kind of developed hand in hand, both of the systems.
Oh, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, and I think that it's we talk all the time on the show and have people on, and I think it's kind of universally known within this spiritual and wellness community. We do want everything to be balanced, mind, body, soul, or spirit, whatever you'd like to use for that. So I am I would say, a new lover of yoga. I just began doing it like really seriously. Oh my gosh, we're about a year. We're in November. Dan and I went to a retreat in Costa Rica.
Oh,
And
nice.
yes, it was it.
Costa Rica is so beautiful.
Oh my
Yes,
gosh,
it
yes. It came at a time where we both very much needed it in our lives, and the movement practice that was there was simply yoga that was offered. And Dan is a personal trainer and holistic lifestyle coach, and I've worked out my whole life, but worked out very hard, and probably to the point where it was just too much for me. And so when I began doing the yoga, I felt that life force energy back in my body. It was like, oh my gosh, I felt finally a connection to my body that I had never had before, which was just the most magical thing. And we have been meditating for, gosh, years on end. So that was already one of our practices. So it's just been lovely. And the component of Ayurveda is popping up more and more now in our reality. And I know that that's not a coincidence. It's life presenting us with these, things. And there's a couple people and coaches that I follow that are Ayurvedic doctors and practitioners. So like I said, I'm familiar with the doshas. We don't know our makeup. How do people know that? Like, do they see counselors and doctors? Like, how would someone know? Like, would you be able to tell if I described you, like, I don't know, the way that I am? Like, would you be able to tell right away?
Not right away, but what you're saying is pretty much exactly how it works. So there are also doctors who can do a pulse diagnosis. They feel your pulse, and you have a Vata, Pitta, and a dosha pulse, and they can feel which one is most present with you. I'm not an Ayurvedic doctor. I'm only an Ayurvedic counselor. So I would basically do an interview with you. I would ask you about your body type and your typical issues. Like, for example, if you have digestive issues, is it more that you tend to have diarrhea, or that you're more like constipated? Or if you have skin issues, do you tend to have inflammations, or sometimes does your gum bleed? Or how healthy are your teeth, and how thick is your hair and everything? But I will also ask you about what you really love to do. What are your passions? What are you passionate about? Are there a lot of things that you're passionate about? Is it hard for you to focus on something, or is it like really easy for you to completely get into that flow state where you get that tunnel view and you get shit done? Am I allowed to say that?
You absolutely can.
So yeah, I would ask you all the questions, and then in the end, I would see which one is the most predominant dosha in your constitution. Because something I get asked a lot is, there are only 3 doshas, but there are so many different people. How can you divide people in only 3 categories? And it doesn't work like that. Everyone has all 3 doshas inside. We all do.
That would be my next question. You read my mind.
Yeah, it's kind of like the primary colors. There are only 3 primary colors, and every other color is made out of these 3 colors. And that's exactly how Ayurveda works. So each one of us, Dan, Elise, me, every one of our listeners has a different mixture of the 3 doshas inside. And depending on the qualities of the doshas that are most dominant, you can then see, okay, that's the body type, that's the personality, that's the interest. So
that makes sense. Yes, I was just about to ask if there were, more than one dosha within people. So yes, I guess I didn't realize that.
Yeah, is this something that stays fixed, or is it something that could change over time?
Well, we actually, I'm missing the word right now. We distinguish between 2 types of constitutions. There's the constitution that you're born with. You have one mixture of doshas when you're born, which is dependent on your parents and the time when you were conceived and the time when you were born. So that's the constitution you're born with. And that's your most basic personality, character, body trait. But however, as I just said, the doshas are all around us, and we are always under the influence of doshas. When we eat food, when we talk to people, when we work, And this influence can lead to imbalances. So when we have an imbalance, it may kind of throw us out of our natural constitution. And then we get an imbalance, and then we might get an ailment, like we cannot sleep, or we get breakouts on our skin. So that's a sign of an imbalance.
That makes
Yeah,
sense.
very much.
Yeah, let's dive into that a little bit more because, you know, one of the, I would say, main themes of our show is really about self-development and self-discovering and better understanding ourselves. So it seems really beautiful how the doshas can help us better understand our makeup. You said that there's like imbalances. So if there's imbalances, I'm assuming you either guide people or give your opinion on what to focus on, you know, for food or nutrition wise, exercise, perhaps. I'm sure there's some yoga, but also how can it like better us? I'll let you take it over from there.
Yeah. When I do consultations, I never really look at the prakriti, which is the one that we're born with.
Oh, okay.
That's the mixture that we're born with, and that's who we are in our core. I always look at the other thing, the vikriti, that's called like that. And I try to see where is an imbalance. What is your current state? Which dosha is dominant right now? And and then I ask if there are any ailments. Like, do you sleep at night? How's your digestion going? And also, how are your emotions? How are you feeling? Is it like hard for you to concentrate, or are you feeling a little bit sad or tired all the time? And I also ask a lot of questions about the life circumstances of the person who's seeing me. So I'm asking, are you having a very stressful job? How is your personal life? And do you have any routines? What do you eat? And then based on that, I give tips concerning routines, concerning food, concerning basically how you even start your day, and also what you could do to feel your best in your body, in your own skin.
Okay. Can we use me as an example? Maybe it would just be like a
Sure.
little bit tangible for people to get an idea. And we don't have to go too in depth, but just to give like the listeners and audience like an idea, like if you've got, you know, a Pitta dominant, like this is what's going to show up, and you know, perhaps you could drink better water or whatever it may be. So I'll let you kind of maybe just ask me a few questions. Like I said, it doesn't have to go full in depth, but I'll let you lead the way.
Okay, well, to me, you feel like a very outgoing, communicative person. Is that right?
Yes, very.
And you're always like,
communications was my major in college.
oh, really? Okay. So you love to interact with people?
I do. Yes, I do enjoy the conversational piece and like getting to know the other person.
Okay. What about your interests? Is there something you're really passionate about, something that you love doing or talking about?
I love spirituality and talking about anything in regards to wellness and the betterment of my mind, body, and spirit. This has been a journey that I've been on for probably over a decade, and I have fallen in love with it. But I also absolutely have a creative side. Like I have been really diving into photography lately, and I love everything to do with like graphic arts. Like my mother's an artist, so I grew up around art.
Very nice. Tell me more about your hair.
My hair has actually grown as like so much over the past like year and a half. For a while, and I would love your opinion on this, I felt like it wasn't growing, but I think a big part of that, I was fasting a lot. Like I was probably fasting 3 times a week. And now I don't fast anymore other than intermittent fasting every once in a while. It's thin, but so right now it's straight. I straightened it, but I typically have like wavy hair.
Okay.
Yeah, it goes like halfway down my back, I would say. It's like
Yeah.
I feel like it's the healthiest it's been in probably about 10 years.
Wow.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's changed a lot.
Yeah. What about your weight? Is it easy for you to put on weight, or is it easy for you to lose weight when you want to?
I tend to myself, what I believe happens, I tend to kind of hover around the same weight. And
Mhm.
if I were to gain weight, it would almost be like a stressful weight, I feel. And then because I can almost feel like my stomach being inflamed, or like my
Mhm.
hips getting a little bit larger. But like my arms, like you can see my collarbones and my like almost like my chest bones, my like ribs here. Even you can see like the ribs in my back.
Okay. When you're sick, what type of ailment do you have?
It's body ache.
Mm-hmm.
Last two or three times I've been sick, it is like a debilitating ache from head to toe. I don't like I don't throw up. I'm not like nauseous or anything. Like sometimes my throat will hurt, but it's like headache and just continual body aching.
Okay. Maybe just one more question.
Sure.
Do you get hangry?
Yes, I do.
Yeah, I can confirm that.
That's an amazing question. I do. Yes, I do. I hope I'm not the only one.
Nope, me too. I also get hangry a lot, yeah.
Love it.
Okay, so just because we don't want it to become like a whole interview,
Yeah.
just a very superficial observation would be that you have a lot of Vata.
Okay.
Vata is made of ether and air, which
Mm.
is the airy dosha. And it's about movement and it's about communication and creativity. And people who have a lot of Vata, they're oftentimes artists.
Mm.
They're very creative and interested in a lot of things. So that goes really, really well with what you told me about the photography and the designing and doing a podcast. So that's a very Vata typical thing. And also that you're so communicative and that you love to talk to other people and get to know them. That's super Vata. And
I
also,
had an idea that was mine just from listening to
yeah.
Ayurveda. I'm so glad that you like confirmed it, because I did want to know. Okay, that makes
It
sense.
is, yeah. And also the body aching, that's also a Vata symptom, actually.
Oh,
Pain is a Vata symptom.
okay.
And if you're experiencing pain, it can have different qualities. There can be a sharp, hot pain, like a Pitta pain.
Mm.
But if you're experiencing pain in the first place, probably there's a little bit of Vata going on. And also that your hair is more on the thin side. That's also typical for Vata. The Kapha people, the ones who have a lot of earth and water, that's the two elements that this dosha is composed of. They are the lucky ones with the thick hair. And
His hair, it's unreal. I'm like, how do you? He has so much hair.
yeah. That's Kapha hair, yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely. Mm. So that's also a very Vata typical quality. And the fact that you're getting hangry, that's actually a Pitta quality.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Yes, Pitta people are the ones who have a lot of fire in them. Pitta is the fiery dosha. There's
Mm.
a lot of fire in that dosha and just a little bit of water. So the qualities of this dosha are like hot and sharp and penetrating. And these people are the ones with a very fast digestion, and they tend to get hungry a lot. I know best. And they need their food, and when they don't get it, they get like really irritated. Whereas people with a lot of kapha, they're like so chill because they're so down to earth. We already have the elements in our daily use of speech without even knowing it. These people are so down to earth and so chill that they don't even care. They're like, oh, there's another meeting before I can do my lunch break. Not a big problem. Let's do it, and then I can have my lunch. And the Vata people, they're so busy doing everything. I want to do this project, but then I have to think about the other one, and that's also a great thing. And now I want to do that, but there's also that interesting person that I have to ask a lot of questions. They just forget to eat.
Dorothy, you are my new best friend. Thank you. We literally had this, not an argument, but a discussion yesterday. We were getting ready to do something. And I was like, okay, I'll be right there. And then I did 2 things before I got to him. He's like, do you realize that you just...
I'm just sitting there waiting.
Oh my God, thank you. So I'm not crazy.
You're definitely not. You are definitely not crazy. And that's also what I love about Ayurveda. Once you dive a little bit deeper into your constitution, you understand yourself so much better.
Yeah.
And I love that. Once I started diving into Ayurveda and I got to know my own constitution, I could do so much about it when I felt like I was getting out of balance. For example, I was getting so irritated with my mom one day on the phone, and I realized she wasn't even doing anything bad, but I was so irritated. I was like, I need to hang up the phone or otherwise I'm going to start screaming at her. And when I hung up, I was like, why could that be? Why am I so irritated? I'm actually in a pretty good mood. And then I remembered my predominant dosha is Pitta. And Pitta people tend to be very passionate, and they have a lot of emotion, and things can get heated again with the use of speech. And when it's summer outside and it's really, really hot, your Pitta can still rise, you know. And I was like, okay, my Pitta is getting out of control, and that's why I'm getting so irritated. And I figured, okay, I need to calm down. I need to cool down. I need to eat some cooling fruits. I need to take a cold shower. I need to take a little walk in the woods where there's shadow and not that gleaming sun, you know. And I felt better because I know every dosha, when it's balanced, has great qualities. Like, to stay with the Pitta example, when Pitta is balanced, you're focused, you're a go-getter, you're doing what you have to do, and you're very passionate. But when it gets out of balance, you get irritable and you kind of get very into competition and kind of like you lose a little bit the fun of it, you know? You're just so focused on the outcome. And that's when you know there's an imbalance happening.
I am so glad that we did this. Like, thank you very much. I think it helped me, and I hope it's going to help the listeners as well better understand these constitutions and makeups and like what it means to be imbalanced and to have these qualities stuff. That's so interesting, Dorothy. Like, thank you. I'm so glad. So knowing this, and you know, somewhat of like a constitution of myself, but anybody else listening is probably racking their brains like, oh, I have this kind of, you know, style hair, or this is what I feel like emotion wise, or this is what I am for sick. How do we now like put that into play with like yoga? Are there certain things that, you know, these different doshas like benefit from yoga? How does that marry together once we know our Ayurvedic constitution?
Yes, definitely. Whenever I do an Ayurvedic consultation, I never send them home without any yogic tips. There's always a little bit of yoga practice. I always recommend some asanas to them and their specific problems. If they have any, maybe they just want to feel better, then I just give them asanas to keep the balance. But every asana has an effect on the doshas. For example, the ones where you're lying on the floor. Let's take everyone's favorite pose, Shavasana. Your whole body is on the floor and close to the earth, if you will. So it's pretty easy to say, okay, I'm so close to the earth. It's raising the earth element inside of me, which is Kapha. Or if you're raising your arms over your head, then you're connecting more to the air element. Or also back bends, which are more invigorating, that's more like Vata enhancing. If you're doing forward folds, that's Kapha enhancing. If you're doing core work, that's Pitta enhancing. For example, plank pose, that's a very Pitta enhancing pose. And also the warrior poses, because they're very focused on strength and courage. And these are all Pitta qualities as well. But at the same time, they also have Kapha qualities, because you're standing strong on your 2 feet and you're grounded and you're stable, hopefully. So
Yeah, it makes so much sense when you're describing it like this. It's like, yes, of course, it's yes.
Do you find that people tend to kind of gravitate toward yoga practices that are in alignment with their own constitution, or is it more like, I don't know, maybe like finding things that offset what's happening in their life, or both?
Both, I feel. I feel like people in these sweaty vinyasa classes are most likely to be Pitta people and less likely to be Kapha people.
Yeah,
Even
that
though
makes a lot of sense.
Kapha people might need it, because Kapha is made of water and earth. And if you ever mixed water and earth, you have like this gooey thing, which in balance can be a good thing because it gives you stability and strength, but not balance, it can lead to you being lethargic and not feeling like doing anything and being tired all the time. So you might need a flowy class to get the energy flowing again. But in these classes, I most often see like these really sporty people who sometimes see yoga as a workout. And yeah, and then sometimes when there's a class that's more restorative, for example, yin yoga, I feel like people sometimes have trouble to really wind down. And that's how I see the Vata people who really have trouble staying in one pose for a long time and concentrating. They get itchy. They're like, okay, I've been in child's pose for like 5 breaths now. When is this over? Can I just move already, please?
It's interesting. I feel like I always really benefit from doing like a yin yoga class, but it's not something I like very rarely like think to do or like, feel like excited about.
Yeah.
I love to like exercise, like train really hard and work out, like be really active. So it's interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like, well, it's interesting because perhaps because I've meditated for so long as this part of, an Ayurveda quality that I've got as a dosha. I do enjoy the yin yoga and restorative poses, but it's taken me a while. Like when I first tried to start meditating about a decade ago, I was like, nope. I was like, no, I'm not doing this. Absolutely not. So it took me like a good 3 years to actually sit, and now I can easily meditate for an hour, if not 2 at times, but it has taken me years. So perhaps that does aid to my love of the yin and restorative. I may perhaps think about doing it a little bit more often, because I really only do it maybe like once every few weeks. So that is a good reminder to drop into my body a little bit more and allow myself to ground into the earth.
Yeah, and that's awesome because as we just discovered, you have a lot of Vata, so meditating is very, very good for you.
Yes, it is. And it has become, it's such a wonderful part of my lifestyle that it's second nature to me. Sometimes I'll meditate 3 times a day. Like there's always a meditation in the morning and then an evening one. And if I have time during the day at any point, like I will try, but, gosh, that I couldn't be a bigger component. We couldn't be a bigger component of it to truly understand and witness our thoughts, as these are also playing such a big role in who we are, who we believe or think ourselves to be, and if we want to incorporate that transformation within ourselves. Okay, but I feel like this is the perfect time to transition. We're like kind of at that 30-minute mark. We've done so much and you've dived very deep into the Ayurvedic and yoga practices, which I'm so glad, and we'll intertwine that too. But you are also a journal therapist, which is fascinating to me. I love journaling. We also love journaling.
Huge fan of journaling.
We've been journaling, gosh, again, probably for about 7-8 years or so, and that's a part of
I
our
love
morning
that.
routine. Yes. So please kind of explain what this journal therapist is and how you do incorporate that in the Ayurvedic and yoga teachings.
Yeah, it was always my passion. I've been journaling since I was a teenager. I started with the classic Dear Diary, today I saw my crush, and then I
Yes.
dove deeper into it and used it as a tool to manage my anxiety and like everyday stress, you know. And then it was another COVID project of mine to do that training to be a journal therapist. I never knew there was such a thing, but it's pretty much about helping people deal with emotional stress by writing. And there's journal prompts on the one hand, like the reflection questions that you give to people that questions that are really destined to help the people, questions that point to that person's problem, and questions that can bring that person more clarity about their current situation. But there's also free writing techniques where you can just unclutter your mind and get a little bit of clarity. When you have all these thoughts running around in your head, it can be good to do that little technique that's called brain dump, where you just write for at least 10 minutes, 15 is even better, but you just set a timer and you write, and you never put your pen down. You write about everything that comes to your mind, no matter how important or not important it might seem. And when you feel like you don't know what to write about anymore, you write exactly that. I don't know what to write about anymore. But you keep writing for the 50 minutes, and that's when you tap into your unconsciousness. That's when your unconscious thoughts start flowing onto the paper. And then you can lay it all to the side, sleep on it, and then when you grab the paper again and read it, you might be really surprised about what you've written. When I've done that in my classes, I've had people who came to me after class and were like, wow, I was writing about a topic where I thought I was already totally over it. And now I'm like, why am I even writing about that? Maybe I need to take a closer look at that again. So it's really fascinating what writing can do. And I love to use that for my Ayurvedic consultations, because as I just said, knowing your constitution helps you understand yourself so much better. And if you really want to dive deeper into Ayurveda and your constitution, it's really good to give the people some journal prompts to work with in order to dive deeper into their own constitution and what it means for them, but also into the Ayurvedic qualities all around them. Like, for example, the spicy food that I'm eating with that lot of Pitta energy, is that really good for me? If I'm already tending to get inflammations, which is a Pitta problem, do I need food that enhances Pitta even more? Probably not. Or if I'm feeling super lethargic all the time, is it good that I'm eating a lot of cheese every day? Because that's enhancing kapha. So I give them journal prompts to really develop a sensibility for the influence of the Ayurvedic energies around them.
That's
Yeah.
really cool. I think that's so fabulous. There's something about allowing whatever is ruminating within our minds and thought energy that comes out, getting it on paper.
Yes.
Your student, whoever that you gave the example, saying like, oh my gosh, I'm writing about this thing that I thought I was over from years ago. I find myself doing that too. What do you think? Do you think it's just because we ruminate over it in our thoughts and it's still like an energy, and then seeing it on paper makes it maybe just dissipate better or like go away or tangible?
Yes. And in our everyday life, we are exposed to a lot of influences. We have so much going on. We have so many people around us, and we have ads everywhere and news everywhere. And when we have a topic on our mind, sometimes it just gets to go to the back burner just because we don't know how to handle it right now because there's so much else going on. And then when we actually take the time to sit down and write, it can pop up. And then it's out on paper and you see, okay, now I have a black on white. I'm actually thinking about this. So maybe it deserves a little bit more time, a little bit more thought, and a little bit more coping, maybe.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think it's also it's a lot easier to question your stories when they're tangible and in front of you, where it's
Exactly.
when things are in our head, we tend to believe them just because
Yes.
we're thinking it. And getting it out, we can create a little bit of separation and distance.
Exactly. And we also tend to think in circles, at least I do.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
and when you're just thinking them, like you just said, it's easy to just keep circling around. Whereas when you're writing, you'll be like, hey, didn't I write that just a second ago? And then you get out of that circle. And all of a sudden, it's starting to unclutter.
Yes, that totally
Yeah,
makes
it
sense.
really
I
does.
love that analogy. Absolutely. So how do you exactly blend yoga with journaling?
When I teach yoga and journaling, I tend to teach really meditative classes where we hold the poses a little bit longer. And then in a pose where they're resting, for example, child's pose or a forward fold, I will already give them a journal prompt to contemplate. And then afterwards, we're doing a little flow. And then I have them break for a little bit and write. We're having a little writing break. And then they get about 3 minutes to write about it. And then we continue with our yoga flow. And then again, in another asana, they get a new prompt from me. And then after a few other asanas, they get to write about it. So I blend the qualities of the asanas, for example, the letting go quality of the forward fold with the journal prompt, which, to keep it basic, might be, is there something in my life I need to let go of? Or is there something I need to give myself permission to let go of? So, or if you're in a warrior position, which is very much associated with courage and strength, the journal prompt might be, is there something in my life that I'm really proud of and why? Or what obstacle in my life did I overcome and how? And so yeah, the qualities of the asanas get blended with the topics of the journal prompts that I give them. And that's taking them even more into that contemplation of the journaling.
I love
Yeah.
Thanks for doing this. This is so fabulous. I would have never thought to incorporate that actually in the practice. I was talking to a girlfriend about this maybe 2 weeks ago too. She's a yoga practitioner. Like she has her certification and she's very excited that I just like started doing yoga a year ago. So I talk to her very often about it and I find myself I cry a lot during like seated forward folds.
Yes.
So like when my legs are out and like it caught me really off guard the very first time I did it last year. I was doing a yin class I was by myself. This was just on like an app, a yoga app that I use. And it was, yeah, it was seated forward fold with my legs out. And then I had like my forehead on a block and the tears were coming down and I'm like, oh my God, I felt like immense sadness and I didn't understand. But she said, like, I cry too all the time. And I started asking other people and I was like, oh my gosh, like what's happening? And then like, I'm in the pose for, 3 to 5 minutes and then off to the next, but never did I think to actually like contemplate what was going on. I knew something was releasing. I was just kind of letting it. But now I'm kind of like excited to perhaps add some contemplation in with it.
Right. Yeah, and maybe you were crying because this pose is about letting go, and maybe you were holding on to something that has built up inside of you. And
Yeah.
then when you're in that pose, and as you said, you were in there very long, so your body had time to process that and be like, okay, now I'm letting it all go.
Yeah,
Mm.
absolutely. So here, this is kind of a deep question. So like I said, it's blowing my mind that, these poses are that potent to our body, and our body is, I know, highly intelligent. It's working always in our favor, even sometimes when we're not trusting it or we're working against it. But what needed to happen at that time for me was to cry, to release, in the sense that I didn't really know what to do. I just cried. Is that enough? Like, is that enough to like allow myself to release and let go of what needed to release?
Did you feel a little bit lighter afterwards?
Oh, yes. After the class, I was like, heck yeah, that was incredible.
Then it already helped. But
Yeah.
if there's something where you're like, why did I cry? Why did I get so emotional? Maybe it makes sense to, you guessed it, journal and just write about it. And maybe you can tap into your unconsciousness and uncover something that you didn't even know was there. But you don't have to. If you're like, okay, now I cried and now I feel better, perfect, let's move on with my day, that's also completely fine. But you can always dive deeper by contemplating it with journaling.
Yeah. Okay. That totally makes sense. Yes, I'm so glad.
Yeah, it's such a cool way to kind of take that self-exploration to a new level. And because
Absolutely.
like you're already talking about how just the journaling allows us to get from the conscious to the subconscious, and now adding in
Right.
some movements in the body allows us to get to the things that are like stored in there, like physically. And I'm really,
Exactly.
really intrigued by this, really excited about
Oh my
it.
gosh, you've been a blessing. Like I said, Dorothy, you're my new best friend. I'm gonna be like asking you for all these things. No, I'm just so grateful. Yeah, it's and like I had said before, the show really is about self-development, self-discovery. And we tend to, Dan and I talk a lot about this on the show. We talk a lot about subconscious and unconscious programming. We think we are who we are, which is really our personality and our egoic nature. And this is how we grew up. It's through, like you said, media, for our parents, our siblings. It's how we grew up, any type of religion, schooling, the movies and TV that we watch. It's not a bad thing, but it's like, these are all layers. They're all masks. They're all like actors playing out this role. But who am I at the core of this? And everything you're
Exactly.
saying, like that's the yogic path. That's what it truly means to be a yogi, to understand that we are this one aspect from the God, creator, the divine source, whatever you like to call it, just manifested in our own unique human to experience life that way. And it's such a wonderful, constitution to understand these doshas as part of a better way to dive deeper into it, and journaling as part of it. This is so exciting. Let's kind of wrap up, kind of, if we could tie this all like in a great little bow, like how this really truly is beneficial for our overall health, physically, mentally, our well-being, how it is, yoga, Ayurvedic, and journaling all together.
There's that beautiful quote in the Bhagavad Gita that says, yoga is the journey of the self, through the self, to the self. And I think that's pretty much the bow that you were talking about, because that pretty much wraps it all up. You do yoga, but as long as you just do the poses, you're pretty much just doing gymnastics. When you combine it with breath and mindfulness, then you're starting to do yoga. And if you really want to discover your true self, it absolutely makes sense to know your Ayurvedic constitution. There's no Ayurveda without yoga, because every time I do a consultation, I always give yoga tips to support the physical health, but also the mental health. And once you know your Ayurvedic constitution, you know why you sometimes act the way that you do, or why you sometimes feel the way that you do, or why you have the preferences that you have. And once you know that, you might find such an amount of peace in that, because oftentimes we feel so pressured to feel what others feeling
Yeah, and
about
to fit
certain
in.
things. Yes, for example, there might be the friend who's like, okay, you need to go hiking with me, but you absolutely hate hiking. And then you might be like, okay, well, that's my constitution. I don't really like that. I have other preferences. I'm more the creative type. I'm not the sporty type. And that's okay because that's me. And that's such an empowering thought to have. That's okay. That's me, and that's okay. And doing yoga and poses that are good for your constitution, that can feel so yummy in your body and also in your mind. And then if you combine it with journaling, you dive even deeper and you really get to know yourself and you learn how to be kind to yourself. And I think that's the essence of it all. You learn to understand yourself and you learn to be kind to yourself. You wouldn't want to pressure anybody else into doing something that they totally don't want to do and that feels wrong to them. So why are you doing it to yourself?
Oh my God, so beautifully said, Dorothy. Yes, we're all so hard on ourselves to do more, to be more. And I certainly know for myself that I've lived my life trying to keep up with everybody else or to change myself because I wasn't accepted in whatever way or whatnot. And that's why this journey is so much of an inner look of who I am, because it's exhausting. It really is exhausting trying to be someone that you're not. And we want those unique aspects of ourselves to shine, as opposed to it gets kind of boring when we're all the same.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what it is.
Oh my gosh, this has been so fun. I really thank you so much for giving me that kind of little camera diagnosis and going through the questions. That was really helpful for myself. Definitely for Dan in our relationship, and as well as the listeners, to give the context. And you married it so beautifully with journaling as well as your yoga teacher. I can understand, and really your smile and the way that you talk about it is just like uplifting, and your spirit just shines right through. So I know that all of the people that you're helping is just wonderful. So I want to make sure, though, as we wrap up here, is there anything else that you feel is important that you'd like to say before we let you go? If not, that's fine. We covered so much. I just want to make sure that if there's a last thing that you have, like, oh, we didn't get to this, please let us know before we sign off.
Yeah, I feel like it's important to mention that this is not about self-optimization. This is not about becoming something better or someone else. It's becoming you and feeling your best being you. So it's not about becoming something else. It's just about getting to know yourself, accepting yourself, and being kind to yourself.
Absolutely beautiful. I think that that's the most magical way to end the show here. It's on such a wonderful note. Dorothee, if people do want to learn more about you and the doshas and what you have to offer, where can they find you?
Well, I do write a blog about yoga, Ayurveda, and journaling, and it's called The Writing Yogini. It's available in English and German. And I think you posted the link in the show notes.
Yes, I will make sure to post everything in the show notes. Yes.
Totally happy if you pop by. And there's also a link to where you can book an Ayurvedic consultation with me if you'd like to do that. And there are different packages. Like the most basic one is just the consultation with a few basic tips. And then there's one with a personalized yoga session. And then there's the most large package, which is also with personalized journaling. And yeah, you can also pop by my Instagram. It's also called The Writing Yogini, and I would love to see you.
Awesome.
I would love to see some of you there.
Oh my gosh, Dorothy, like I said, this has been an absolute pleasure and just such a fabulous, fun conversation. Lots of information. So again, we thank you for your knowledge and all that you shared with us and our audience. So thank you again for joining us.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me.